I apologize for all of those people who are very sensitive to echoes. I didn't really have a lot of filming options, so I had to film in this giant room, and you can tell that the ceilings are really high, so it's very echoey in here, so I apologize for the echo in this video. Hey guys, what is up? Thank you so much for joining me for another video. If you guys don't know me, my name is Madison Brady. I am a newly credentialed registered dietitian nutritionist, and I recently graduated from my dietetic internship in June of 2020. For those of you who don't know, I have a YouTube channel geared towards nutrition students, dietetic students, future dietetic interns, because I know that when I started researching dietetic internships, there was hardly any resources out there for what a dietetic internship entails. So my YouTube channel goes into the nitty-gritty of what it's like to be in a dietetic internship. So if you want to see more videos like that, make sure to check out my other videos. I'll post a little tag up here for you guys to check those out. But today I wanted to do a slightly lighter video in the midst of what is going on in the United States right now. I live in Oregon and half of our state is currently on fire. So I wanted to do a lighter video. So today I will be sharing stories with you from previous dietetic interns who are in the dietetic internship. These stories are embarrassing, not so much scary, but just weird stories that have happened to dietetic interns. I know that when I was a dietetic student looking into dietetic internships, I was always so intimidated by these programs. I looked at the pictures of these dietetic interns and I was like, I will never be so successful. These guys seemed like they had their SHIT together, if you know what I mean. And I was like, I do not have that going on for me. So I was always so intimidated. So these stories are to kind of humanize dietetic interns a little bit more, just to share that dietetic interns are not always perfect. We make mistakes. We have weird things happen to us just like everyone else. So with that, let's get into the stories. I am sharing 5 stories today, 3 of them from other people and 2 of my own stories. If you want to see more of my stories or want me to share my experiences in general, definitely give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comments, and I will be sure to make a video for you guys just on my own experiences. But for now, let's get into the stories we have for you today. All right, so for our first story today, we have a story actually from one of my preceptors, and this is a super funny one, so let's get into it. Okay, I'm a very enthusiastic person and very positive, and when I started my clinical rotation, I was shadowing this older dietitian. When we got into a patient's room, she was like, okay, you can handle this one. He wasn't eating very much and was probably a malnourished patient. So when I walked in with this older dietitian and I saw how much the patient ate from the meal before, I screamed, oh my gosh, wow, you ate 75% of your meal? In the most enthusiastic way, because I was so nervous and it came out so enthusiastic. But that's also just my personality type. The dietitian looked at me so weird, almost like, calm down, you're scaring this patient. But I was so nervous. Oh my gosh, I can totally relate to this. Going into patients' rooms, especially when you're new to being in your clinical rotation, it is so nerve-wracking, especially when you're going in with your preceptor, because you want to let your preceptor know that, like, you know what you're doing, and you want to exude confidence, but in your head you're like, I don't know what the F I'm doing. Like, so I could totally relate to this. I don't think I've had a specific experience. I generally tend to be a little bit shy when it comes to interviewing patients, and I will tend to not ask them a lot of questions, and I will just like ask them like my list of questions, and then like my mind will go blank and I will forget the other questions that I'm supposed to ask them. And then like by the time I get back to the like dietitian's office, I'm like writing up their chart and I'm like, oh no, I forgot to ask them that question. I can totally relate to this, but don't worry, your nerves will calm down. Like she said, she was at the beginning of her clinical rotation, so she was really nervous. But once you get the hang of it, it's super easy to do a patient interview, and you got this. Okay, moving on to our next story. This one was from just one of my followers on Instagram. If you haven't followed me yet, definitely give me a follow. I'm at No Food Fads Mads on Instagram. Okay, this story. At one of my community rotations, we had a client come in for one-on-one counseling. We asked her to bring in her supplements this time so we could check them out. I kid you not, she brought in 3 giant plastic bags worth of supplements. I will never forget my preceptor and I were sitting there as we watched her take them out one by one. She couldn't even fit them all on the table in the office. There had to be at least 45 different bottles of supplements she brought in. I remember being a deer in headlights at first, like where on earth do I start? Oh my gosh, that is so overwhelming as an intern, especially when you're like not familiar with how to counsel clients. You're kind of just like, what? And a lot of times like clients can say like the weirdest stuff too. Not that happened in this instance, but clients can definitely say weird stuff and can kind of throw you off your game. I actually continued to talk to her about this in my DMs, and she mentioned that the dietitian ended up taking the lead on this one and organizing the pills into, or organizing the supplements into different piles on the table. So like supplements that were working, supplements that were a waste of money, that sort of stuff. So I think that was a good way to handle it. Yeah, client counseling can definitely open a weird bag of worms for sure. I am really glad that I didn't do a ton of counseling in my internship. I think some internships are more heavily in the counseling area than others. So just if you don't like counseling like me, maybe consider a more like clinical focused internship. All right, we are moving on to story number 3. Let's see. Okay, I think this was actually from one of my friends in my undergrad nutrition program. She says, I was interning in clinical when this happened. One day I was shadowing a wound care nurse for a few hours in order to gain some insight into other professions. I was rounding on some patients with her and everything was going fine until we got to one patient that required a huge dressing change. His wound was very deep and very infected, and the wound nurse had me participate in the dressing change. I was elbow deep in this guy's wound for at least 20 minutes while the wound nurse cleaned him out. It was so gross. Oh my gosh, girl. I don't know how she survived that. I probably would have thrown up into the guy's wound because that is disgusting. Wound nurses it's an interesting job, I would say, but it's definitely like one of the more challenging, and you kind of have to have a strong stomach for that. But in this case, good job, girl. You handled it like a pro, you got through it, and now you never have to do it again, right? I have to say, I think all experiences are valid in the internship, even if they are gross experiences like this one. But I mean, you just never, I think every experience can open you up to something different and something cool. For instance, I don't want to get like too much into myself right now, but I was in customer service for like the longest time, and that wasn't related to nutrition at all. Like I straight up worked at like a box store, but I think it still gave me valuable experiences that I could like apply to my nutrition experiences. Even though this was gross in the moment, I think she could take those little bits of information that she got and apply them to how she works with, you know, patients with wounds. You know, now she knows what they look like. So that's kind of cool. And also, I just wanted to mention really quick that it is pretty common to shadow other professions when you're in the clinical environment. I shadowed a speech language pathologist pretty briefly, and I think that's pretty common to shadow speech language pathologists and get some insight into how they do barium swallows and things like that, because I know that that directly relates to what diet they're getting, what consistency they can swallow, and it's actually pretty cool to get to see someone swallow, because the swallow mechanism is like crazy. It's pretty cool. A lot of times dietitians will kind of help you set up a brief shadowing experience with another professional, and that just kind of helps you understand what their role is in the interdisciplinary team, so that you can kind of get a better sense of everyone's role. All right, now we are gonna move on to my stories. My first story that I'm going to share which is the fourth story in this video, is an embarrassing story. And oh my gosh, buckle your seatbelts, grab some popcorn, because we about to dive in. So a little bit of context behind what was going on in my life when this embarrassing thing happened. So I was currently in a corporate wellness rotation during my internship, and my preceptor was this guy. He wasn't really a dietitian, he was more kinesiology, like sports medicine, and he also had like some marriage counseling background. So he wasn't a dietitian, but he was still my preceptor, and I was in a corporate wellness rotation. Whatever rotation I was going to next, they required a drug test, which happened to be in the form of a urine test. I go to the hospital and try to get this pee test, and let me tell you, I had the worst time trying to get this pee test. First of all, the hospital was like super busy. I didn't have to pee for whatever reason, and it just wasn't going well. So I get on my phone naturally and text my roommates naturally, who were also interns in this program, and I text them and I'm like, yo, this is not the move. This is going terribly. I can't pee. I'm gonna have to stay here for another 45 minutes while I try to chug this orange juice that they gave me so that I can pee for this stupid pee test. I put my phone away. I get a text, ding ding, from my preceptor. I don't think you meant to send this to me, but that was pretty funny. And I look, and instead of texting my roommates about my pee test, I texted my frickin' preceptor. That's right. A 30-ish-year-old man. I texted about my frickin' pee test. Y'all, why? Okay, luckily this guy was like super chill. He was actually chill, like so much chill. He was so chill that he was almost like not the greatest preceptor, but you know, that's like another story we can get into another day if you want to hear about it. He like didn't care that I texted him about my urine test, but it was just like really embarrassing for me, you know, because that's not really the type of thing you would want to text your preceptor. Just make sure you're texting the right person, especially if you have your preceptor's number. Make sure, you know, you keep it professional. All right, my second story is with another preceptor, and this story is more just like weird, and I don't even know. So a little bit of context too. All my stories require context. In this story, I'm interning at a hospital. It's my clinical rotation. It's my last week of clinical rotations. I had 10 weeks at a hospital. It was my last week of rotations. It was like one of my last patients that I was seeing, right? Like in my last week, I think it was like a Wednesday or something. So I was almost done with clinical. And Joint Commission happened to come at my last week of clinical. So they didn't allow me to see my own patients, which like I understood, because like Joint Commission, it's a pretty big deal when they come. I wasn't allowed to see patients by myself, so my preceptor went with me. And my preceptor is this like little like 30-year-old woman, and she's like definitely more reserved and a little bit more like formal, and she's not super casual with me. So I was already uncomfortable going to see patients with her just because she's like not really my type of person, you know? So anyway, I go into this patient's room with her, and I'm taking the lead because it's, you know, my last week of clinical and I know what I'm doing, right? Well, I go into this patient's room with her, and I asked her, you know, the usual questions like, how are you doing? How's the food? Blah, blah, blah. And she just starts rambling about her boyfriend coming to see her. And she was like on the phone while in the middle of our conversation trying to like talk to him. And she was just like this crazy, like 50-year-old lady. And in the middle of while we're trying to interview her, she like lifts up her gown and like squeezes her belly fat and like shows us her belly and like squishes it around, and my preceptor is just like, okay, thank you, bye-bye. But we don't leave because she had just gotten off of NPO, and that means nothing by mouth for you. If you're watching this and don't really know a lot about nutrition, that means nothing by mouth. So she was like naturally really hungry because she hadn't had anything to eat in a few days. And it wasn't like mealtime or anything. So she was like, what can I eat? And the dietitian's like, oh, well, you know, we could get you a bagel or something. And so the lady's like, yeah, get me a bagel right now. So we called down to the kitchen, a bagel arrives, but then once the bagel arrives, she's like, wait, I'm allergic to nuts. So we're like, okay, I'm gonna call the kitchen and we're gonna see if the bagel has nuts. Just don't eat it yet. We'll just take care of this. Just give us a second. So we call, and like whoever's down there looking at the bagel ingredients cannot figure it out. And this patient is naturally hungry, but she's also like kind of cuckoo. And so instead of waiting just a second longer for us to figure out if it has nuts, she just starts eating it in front of us. And she's like, you know what? If I have an anaphylactic reaction, who cares? Because I'm in the hospital. And we're like, oh my God. Like, we're so close to figuring this information out. And instead of waiting just like a second longer, you're gonna like cram it in your mouth. Like, okay. I don't know. That was like probably one of the weirdest patients I had. Honestly, I didn't have like that many like weird experiences at the hospital, which is like kind of surprising because like a lot of weird people are admitted to the hospital. She was definitely one of my crazier patients. It like my preceptor and I laughed about it like later, but in the moment we were just both like, this lady is being like really inappropriate. But you know, you just have to laugh about it, and those are the type of experiences that that make it into these type of videos. Thank you guys so much. That wraps up all of my 5 stories that I will be talking about today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and remember, if you want to see more of my experiences in the internship, make sure to comment down below and I will make sure to do that video for you. And definitely give my YouTube video YouTube channel a subscribe. I would love to gain more nutrition student followers and future dietitian followers, just so that we can kind of build this community and I don't know, see where this goes. I really enjoy making videos for you guys, and I hope that they're beneficial. I know I'm not always like the most formal person, but that's kind of like what I'm trying to go for here. A little bit more casual, more just like me talking to you, like, you know, we're friends. Let's be friends. I also wanted to give a huge thank you to everyone who sent me stories. I know I got a lot of stories in my DMs. I just wasn't able to fit all of them into this video. But if you like this video, I can definitely make more. I have more stories to share. So comment down below, like this video. But thank you so much to everyone who shared stories, because I could not have done this video without you. So thank you. I'm gonna wrap it up today. I don't want to keep rambling on. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, make sure to leave them in the comment box below and I will get back to you. But until then, I'm gonna go. See you guys later. Bye.